The queer case of the shoes from Sussex Police. Another in the series. In the previous video, we looked at the Philip Church's Royal range of yesteryear, which is this one here. And you can probably see that it's similar, at least in terms of the last shape and everything else apart from these being the Duke. Well, this is the Philip, these are the Edward, but the modern range, the nearest I could find, was something called the Duke, which is a half brogue. So it looks to me as if the Royal range has been revamped, I think in 2021 possibly, and these are, I don't know, more than 10 years old, and I think there was a gap where there wasn't a Royal range. Just whilst I've got this here, before we look at these, I'll just show that gentleman provided Church's shoe trees, and these came with, they've got Churches on them, but they look to me as if they're more of a generic, well, I doubt if Churches actually makes, well, maybe they do make their own shoe trees, but these look like a fairly generic shoe tree with Churches stamped on. Leave that out. And the ones that happen to come with the Philip, if they were that way around, I might have changed them over the years, I don't know. As you can see, seem to be, says Churches there, seem to be much more custom made to that particular last. So, returning to the Edward, I think they're the Edward, I better check. Yes, they are. So therefore, they'll be much the same, as you can see, as the Philip. The only difference being the half broguing. Again, I've got a picture of the modern Duke, and I do think that the last has changed. I do think that the current one is pointier. These are a little bit squarer. Anyway, you can whip through this because, well, maybe you haven't seen the last video, but I'll just comment as we go. And that's the broguing. And once again, double stitched both sides, and a little bit of that piping effect there, which they mention on the current Duke, and also a little bit of that piping effect round there. Not much though. I don't know if that's just the way it is, or whether there was an attempt at piping. Anyway, once again, double stitched there and there, and also there and there. It really is very fine and even. And again, these are a 6 tie, so it comes up pretty high. 5 ties, you imagine, will probably finish about there. There's a 5th, which most shoes are, and then so this comes up that bit higher with 6 tie. Makes them very secure, almost heading towards a boot, maybe. One of the things about this I mentioned on the Philip as well. Again, you can see how it's quite tightly waisted there. Not extreme, but quite noticeable. Yeah, so one of the things with this elongated toe cap is that you do tend to get the creasing where your foot bends within the toe cap. Whereas often if the toe cap would be actually where that crease is, it would probably finish about there. And that would just be the vamp. You get the creasing on the vamp, but not the toe cap. But obviously with this longer toe cap, you tend to get that. Much the same inside. Once again, there's a handwritten info with the Edward. Once again, nicely lined. Once again, something written there which you need to... Oh, it's a bit clearer on this one. I haven't actually... Let me put it up to the video so you might be able to read it this time. Looks like we can, though I can't just now. And then the church's stamp. Sole is much the same as the Philip. Apparently oak bark. Did have the church's stamp, which was worn off, and obviously the painting that goes on there. I'll just show you the other one, partly for myself to scrutinise. Quite handsome, I think, that, with that 6-tie thing going on. One thing that does, I do look at this and think this is leather. How do, and there's some other examples now, some of the Italian stuff and some Japanese stuff and so on, how they managed to get the leather to take and keep that kind of shape. I mean, and even there's a slight, that will be to do with the stiffening under there, I'm sure, but that slight where the heel is. And really it needs to be scrutinised from every angle, because some shoes you get that look good from one angle but not so good from another. So to have that 3D thing going on, and I think with these particularly, I wouldn't say impressive perhaps, well, striking. Don't forget it's a wide angle camera, so it's going to make this appear longer than it actually is. But that kind of view, with that way that sweeps up there, is quite imposing, I think. And once again at the side, slight side view. Yeah, kind of there, and that stitch, the way that curves, that kind of sweep, and then the tuck under there. Well, if the weather remains dry, I'm going to put them on just now and go out and get a cup of coffee. There we are, the church's Edward of yesteryear, and the nearest you can find today is the Duke, from what I can see, of their new current royal range. One other thing I've noticed, have you seen the price? Do you see the price? You'll see the price on that. It's on there. My goodness me. My goodness me. I think I got them second hand, of course, from this gentleman. Not very used, as you can see. I've worn them somewhat. A fifth of that, easily. And what I've noticed this before when things get a bit tight, because I've been selling some shoes and what have you over the years, whittling it down to the ones I really like. And what I noticed is that the new price of these types of shoes, when things get a bit, as maybe they are at the moment, not surprising after all that's gone on, but they seem to go up quite noticeably. I think, was it 2008 or whenever we had all that trouble before, financially, these types of shoes, and the Crockett and Jones as well, the new price just went, which means the second-hand price goes up a bit as well. So if you're selling, it's not so bad. But I think just find that curious. It's not just a small increment; it seems to jump quite a bit, as if that's a strategy. But maybe luxury goods, when things get tight, what you do if you're the maker of the top end, you just jack the price up. I don't know. It doesn't seem to make sense to me. But anyway, that's what I seem to have noticed. See you next time. Keep well.